Thank you very much indeed for inviting me. It's a pleasure and honor to be here and speak to you about this, about mobile today. What I want to do, first of all, is I'm going to cover two main areas in this talk. I'm going to look a little bit at the terminals, the handset side of things, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about the services side of things. So in terms of the actual terminal side, obviously, as Alex has already said, there's a lot of feature phones out there, a lot of basic phones already out there. That's pretty much where most of the world is today, and we need to look at those very carefully and see what we can do in terms of providing services to those. Most of this talk, I guess, is going to be about the more digital-enabled mobile phone, the smartphone in the middle there. It's pretty much where we are today. Obviously, we're moving away from being a phone to being a multifunction device. You have camera in there, you have location services, GPS, and so on and so forth in the device itself. So moving away from a single phone to a device that provides a lot more functionality to that. And then going forwards, we're going to see more of that sort of functionality ending up in the device itself. That's actually not a real phone. The picture there, that's actually a mock-up of a device at some point in the future. And in fact, I think that device will be beyond the phone anyway, insofar as it will be actually starting to pull information in from you and around you, and actually integrating from you back to other devices in your world. So to give you an example, my watch is actually a Bluetooth-enabled watch. It links to my phone in my pocket here through Bluetooth. If I have a call coming in, it puts up who the caller is. If I have my Bluetooth headset on, I don't actually have to get my phone out of my pocket at all. I can just press the button on my watch and it will automatically answer the call. I can see what MP3s I'm listening to, on my Bluetooth headset from my phone in my pocket. So we move away from the concept of a phone to a sort of personal server, which is actually there. It's actually starting to know things about you. It knows the context you're working in, what you're trying to do, what you're trying to achieve, and actually starts to control your environment, both your digital environment around you, and then moving on, we'll start to see it controlling your environment further out, and so you'll start to see it controlling your car. We have a product called the Ford Sync, which is actually a Bluetooth-enabled voice analysis system in a car, and again, that actually links, and we'll start to see the ability for your phone to link to your car, control your car. So today you can do things like load your contacts into your car, but going forwards you'll be able to see things like loading your preferences, perhaps your environmental preferences, and so on and so forth. That will automatically get synced with the car. And it comes back to your point, there's going to be a lot of personal information held on the phone, which will actually end up on your SIM, and that information will be shared with devices in your life and with other people around you. So you'll start to see a lot of that. That actually raises a big question around security. If there's a tremendous amount of information on my phone and I lose my phone, then and I only have a PIN on that phone, then there's a big issue with that. We already see that today in business. A lot of companies are not happy about people using their personal phones because it puts onto the phone a lot of emails, a lot of information about organizations, and so on and so forth. So you need to have the ability to wipe the phones. We have that today, of course, but we need to get much smarter about this. One of the interesting things with this watch is if I actually leave my phone behind and I walk out, out of a restaurant or something, which I do a fair amount, the watch actually vibrates because it goes out of pairing. And it's saved me quite a few phones like that. And we'll start to see some things like that coming through on the terminal side of things. So we're seeing going from a basic phone to this integrated device, providing a lot of functionality, and then we'll actually start to see that device being split out again, and other functionality being pulled in, and it becoming much more the center of control for what you're trying to do. So that's what we see happening on the terminal end of things, and clearly that's where we're going with our product set. If we look beyond the terminal side of things, okay. Obviously, we have the basic phone, we have the application platform that sits on the phone that you then program to, and then you have the back-end applications and services. And this is probably one of the most interesting areas, because clearly we're going to start seeing services. We already see services, location services, map services, so on and so forth, being pushed down onto the phone, and you're getting this integrated system between the phone and the back-end servers providing the information. Email is a classic. I mean, BlackBerry made a huge business out of putting email down onto the phone. So we'll certainly see a lot more of that going on, and we'll start to see much richer applications. One of the interesting things about the phone is that because it has information about you, then it opens up a whole new set of back-end services which you don't normally see. Normally, with the web, you think about everything being in the cloud and you just having the information on the browser. But actually, if your phone actually knows where you are, then the phone has to send that information back. The phone actually goes back to being an intelligent device. And again, as Alex said, very often, especially in the phone world, you're not continuously connected. You need to have something that's going to manage that. So I'll talk a little bit more detail about that. So that's what we're seeing on the terminal side of things. Then we have to think about what's happening with the services themselves. And clearly, there's going to be services from different places, right? Now, Microsoft obviously is going to provide services. Other organizations are going to provide services. The mobile operators themselves are going to provide services. The mobile operators see it as a very important area where they start to provide services because they can see that they need to move up the stack and provide additional services. Again, Alex was talking about some of the banking services and things like that. We are going to be providing a load of base-level services. We don't provide application-level services necessarily, but a lot of the lower-level functionality we'll be providing. And then, of course, as I say, there'll be other businesses building applications, services on the back of that and providing that all together. The main services we're providing for the consumer under the Live brand. We have Live Mobile, which provides things like map services, finding the nearest gas station, finding where the local movies are actually as a part of an application on your phone itself. We have interesting, and Alex didn't talk about this, which I think is going to be an interesting area, is the whole area of voice over IP, because one of the services we can provide, obviously, is voice, as a digital service, as a voice over IP service using SIP. We do that today with Communicator. Clearly, we can do that going forwards. Clearly, the operators will be less than happy about us doing that. Somebody's going to do it. Skype already do it. They have some issues with the quality necessarily, but there's going to be a number of things we need to work out through in the business model in that side of things. And then, of course, we have things like Office Mobile on the back end as well. So basically, we're looking at providing a lot of back-end services, both for businesses and for the consumer side of things, which will that will actually then come up on the phone itself. So that's the sort of nice graphic side of things. Okay, but actually the whole thing's much more complex than that. So this is an architectural diagram of all the bits and pieces that you need to think about when you start to look at these services-based offerings. So up on the top here, of course, we actually have the device itself, the mobile device, whether it's going to be a web-based application, rich internet application, a client-based application, SMS, a speech-based application up on the client side of itself. But then the thing below that line is all the sorts of things you start to need to think about if you're going to be providing those services. So you need to think about things like monetization, for instance. Again, Alex talked very briefly about advertising. There's obviously transactional models, subscription models, licensing, advertising models, all those sort of things. We need to provide services, base services to do those sort of things. We need to provide services to do identity. Your SIM may say it's you, but how do you know that's you when you actually try and log onto your back-end services? You need to provide identity around that. You need to start thinking about trust. Trust is a very interesting issue. How do you know if somebody's trustworthy or not? What's their reputation in a particular environment? When you're trying to use a back-end service of some sort or other, you need to think about how trustworthy they are. You need to be able to hold that. eBay, for instance, has a reputation system as part of it. We need to think about how we expand that system and how we capture the elements of trust and relationships on the devices themselves. So, when I have my device, it knows who I am and it knows which other devices I'm working with to trust. All this sort of stuff needs to be thought about. So there's a whole range of different things. You can actually split this into about 4 levels. There's a foundational level I'll talk about very briefly, and that's decide where are you going to put your service. So you're going to build a service, perhaps you're going to put it in-house, you're going to put it on somebody else's systems, you're going to put it on Microsoft systems, you're going to put it on a hosted system. There's a whole load of decisions you have to make there. And again, we're going to provide services, the ability to do those foundational services. Then you have what we're calling infrastructure services, identity, storage. You may want to be able to store your MP3s both on your phone and actually up in the cloud as well, and have them automatically synchronized. Where's that done? Who does that for you? Did you buy that space or whatever? So there's a whole load of issues around that, and people have to supply that. Again, sort of thing we'll be supplying. Workflow services, We want to be able to have your phone understand you're doing some process or other, and you're working through that process. How does that integrate back up into the cloud so it understands what you're doing? So, say you're a service agent going out on a call in business, and you've got to order particular parts, which part of the job you're doing. How do you synchronize that back to the workflow in the organization itself? So that gives you a layer of infrastructure services at the bottom end there. I was going to do a quick demonstration here of a thing called Mesh, which actually shows how this works across multiple devices, both the phone. It provides these, our mesh, and if you have the chance, unfortunately we couldn't get the internet to work, which is one of the interesting issues with services in general. We're sort of off the web here at the moment. But if you do connect up and go to www.mesh.com, you can see how we provide all these services, identity, messaging, storage, workflow services, as a peer-to-peer type mechanism, available on all your machines. You can work through all your machines, irrespective of whether the machine's a mobile phone or whether it's laptop, desktop, or whatever. It doesn't matter. And then, as I say, up above that, there's a whole bunch of application services that we then need to provide for people to be able to go and build the application services and the services they want to push out. And in particular, there's a set of APIs that need to be that people need to work to. It's really important for people at the application level to work to standards in this space, right? And there is a standard out there. It's called REST, Representational State Transfer. REST is basically the underlying platform for how the web works today. HTTP is really a part of the REST architectural standard. We're working forwards. Most of our things, so the infrastructure services I was talking about, are actually using RESTful type techniques. They use RSS, as it happens. So it's really, really important that people use standard web-based protocols for building their services and building their application services, because then we can plug anybody can plug whatever applications they want into on the front end of the device. So that's all the different things that we need to put together. Some of them are there today, some of them we're working on, and so on and so forth. We obviously then have to provide the ability for people to go and build applications using this. So you need the tools, you need the simulators, you need the frameworks, which actually provide a lot of this functionality. And again, we're actually providing that today. One of the things, a couple of things I will talk about that's also very important when you start using these sort of techniques is, I talked a little bit about management. When you lose the device, you do need to be able to wipe it. When you get a new device, you need to be able to provision it. If you're holding a lot of data on, my device has got an 8 gig card in it, which has got all my MP3s on it. If I lost this, I'd have to download all those 8 gig of MP3s again. It would take a while, but what would be more worrying was that I probably don't have a copy. A lot of those I bought and downloaded. How do I go about reprovisioning my device? Now, at a personal level, that's one thing. Of course, at a corporate level, that's another thing. And then the other side of things is the whole area of contracts and service level agreements. Again, if you're in business and you're using the devices for some sort of business application, you need to make sure that the end-to-end scenario, the end-to-end contract and the service level agreement occurs, especially in areas like banking. It was I've looked at the banking side of things as well, and one of the issues I came across very quickly is it's not so much the mobile side of things, it's actually the transfer of the funds across borders that seems to be a big issue there. So, again, you need to think about end-to-end, what are the contracts even at the regulatory level between governments which allow those sort of transfers to take place. So, with those things, once you've got these new platforms at the front end, sets of services that you can build on and very quickly build new application types, what actually you end up being able to do is have a vast number of new business opportunities and new business models that you can build very quickly. And these are a few of them that I put up here. I've already talked a little bit, for instance, about the telematics and Ford Sync. In fact, the new Aston Martin has got a Windows inside that to control all its entertainment console and so on and so forth. I'm trying very hard to get one for a demonstrator to bring to show you, but Aston Martin wouldn't let me have one, unfortunately. It's a $250,000 car, so I suppose it's not a surprise. I talked a little bit about voice and voice over IP. Biometric, again, one of the applications that we've actually built is the ability to take biometric heart data from a heart monitor strap. You can buy a Bluetooth heart monitor, and it monitors your heart. So when you go running, it will actually then play back the MP3s that are at the right pace to get you to the right level of exercise. And it gives you about a 30% improvement, in fact, in your fitness by doing that. So you can start to see how you can pull devices together with the phone in your pocket, with information coming from other sources, and actually start to provide some really interesting new business opportunities. Okay, so I'm over time, I know, so I'll stop now. And I think we're going to take questions after the...
Yeah, we're going to take questions after the session,
okay.
in the panel.
So I hope that's given you a quick overview of what we're doing both on the device itself and in the service.